does this work with what we built? Like, is this in line with our culture? Is this in line with our values? And is this providing value to my clients?
I love bookkeeping.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for listening to the I Love Bookkeeping podcast. My name is Hannah Robinson.
And I'm Melissa Honan.
And thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss an episode out every Tuesday and Thursday. Today, we're going to be extending our Originality series and talking about keeping your originality within your niche. I feel like we've talked a lot about how to stay on brand, how to establish your brand. And today we're going to be taking a deep dive into those who are niched, and how to stay original when you work with a specific industry and how to really stand out. Melissa, we talk about this on the side all the time, I feel like, because you're always sending me new ideas of stuff that you're doing with your business and different concepts that you have. And you always have such great ideas and like fresh new marketing and stuff like that. Do you find it does it come easily to you to stay original?
Well, thank you for saying it's good, because a lot of times I am just throwing everything at the wall. And I have to say, I have to honestly call out Daniel for this, in a sense that he is so good about just coming up with good ideas himself, but also he's a really good person to bounce ideas off of, because he's not going to be judgmental. Now he will shut it down. He'll be like, that's a terrible idea. But I need him to do that. But I think that's the thing, is that we just are always brainstorming. And that is what I found the great way to come up with things that are going to work, and good things, having a non-judgmental environment to just be like, hey, what if we did this? Because funny enough, I am creating, for example, I'm creating an e-course for sales for bookkeepers. And I was telling Daniel, I was like, I think that we should do an e-course for painting businesses, on finances or something like that. If I'm going to be doing this, we're going to have all of the tools that we need to do it for bookkeeping for painters. And he's like, no, that's a terrible idea. And then no shit, guys. 3 weeks later, we're sitting in our living room and he's like, I have a great idea. And I was like, okay, all right, throw it at me. And he's like, we should create, an e-course for painters. And
incredible.
Yeah. He's like, as a lead magnet. And he starts going through, and I just let him go on, guys. I'm like, all right. I was like, that is a fantastic idea. And I was like, you're welcome. And he was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, 3 weeks ago, I told you that we should do that. And he's like, oh yeah, you did. I was like, well, it just took you 3 weeks to realize that it's a fantastic idea. So anyway, I planted the idea. I had to let him think it was his own.
I think that's great that you said that, because my first point of originality and maintaining originality is really embracing the risk of trying something new. I feel like to be original, you kind of have to try things that maybe you haven't tried before, or maybe try things that nobody else has tried before. And you kind of have to embrace the fact that it may not work out. And that's scary. That's super scary. And I feel like you do a pretty great job of trying new things and rebranding and finding better ways to serve your clients, so that so that your business has it. Because I think originality, I think there's two main points when I think of that. And one of them is making your company or making your business your brand, your values, and your services, but also it's finding better ways to serve your client that maybe somebody else doesn't have. So it's kind of a two-pronged approach, I guess, when it comes to being original.
1,000%, Hannah. And that's exactly what I think. Every time we go to do something new, that's what I'm always checking. Does this work with what we built? Is this in line with our culture? Is this in line with our values? And is this providing value to my clients or value to prospective clients? And so if it checks those boxes, I'm willing to put myself out there. And that, I think, is what has helped me, not do something embarrassing, because everything I do, even if it's a little bit out there, or if it's a little bit weird, it's always in the best interest of my niche. And people can feel that. People know when you're being authentic or not. So always making sure I stay, is this in line with my company culture and our values? And is this providing value to our niche? And I think that people really see, when you're being authentic and putting yourself out there, people really appreciate that because they're also business owners and they're also trying to do that for their business. So they see how much work goes into that and they appreciate that. There's this new trending audio on TikTok and it's like, I'm a small business owner, which unfortunately means that I have to be a content creator. So here's the content. It's so funny because that is so relatable because as a small business owner, we're always just trying to we have to come up with content now. That's the name of the game. And so if you're authentic about the way that you do that, other people are going to respond positively to that, even if it's not at 100, right? Even if it's not the perfect thing, people are going to appreciate your effort.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like a great way to kind of implement that effort is to ask for feedback and find out what specifically people in your niche or potential clients in your niche need. Asking them, what are your wants? What are your needs? And when you have that, you can kind of turn around and create something original that serves them. And that makes you ultimately stand out. And I think that's part of, I think when people hear originality, they kind of get lost in the creativity side of it. And really, I think a big part of being original is finding new and creative ways to serve your clients.
So true. And you have no idea how long I could preach about asking for feedback because I always, one of the biggest pain points I hear from business owners is, I don't know I don't know how to keep employees. I don't know, how do I recruit new talent? How do I don't know what my clients want. They're not engaging with my content. Y'all just ask them. It is okay. It's not a faux pas to be like, hey, you just quit this job. Why did you quit? I guess it comes easy to me because I have a naturally judgment-free, feedback positive environment that I've created. But if you don't know what's going on, it's totally okay to ask. Literally in any situation, by the way, as someone with social anxiety, I've always been so scared to speak up. It is totally okay to ask for clarification in literally any scenario. And especially when it comes to what do your clients want? What do your employees want? What do your subcontractors want? Don't assume, legit, just ask them. And if you don't feel comfortable, you could just send out, quick client surveys. The new video series that I'm doing, which again is I'm putting myself out there, right? First of all, we're original in the fact that we are bookkeeping for painters. We are the only bookkeeping and tax firm in the United States that specializes in painting contractors. I don't know if that's still true because some of y'all want to copy us. That's fine. Go ahead. But we are the OG. Okay. And so we're original in that. But now we're also original in the content that we're creating specifically for painting businesses. And so I'm doing a video series on YouTube, 1 to 3 and 3 to 5 minute videos, quick, frequently asked questions, how-tos, answers to their questions. And I got those questions from asking them. I asked, what do you guys want? And they told me, and now I'm making content to give them what they want. So anyway, I could continue to just preach this, but yes, that's such a great point, Hannah. Just, if you're not sure, ask.
Well, and I think especially for those who have a niche, and we're talking about maintaining originality when you're kind of in an industry. And I think there's a misconception that when you cater to a certain industry, that there's a lot of competition, and you can almost use that competition to your advantage to kind of get a leg up on originality, because you can see what other people are doing and you don't have to copy it, but you can do something that better serves your business, or you can look at what somebody else is doing and say, hey, this is not, I see what they're doing. Maybe that's not the way I would want to do it. And you can find new ways. You can kind of get motivated and inspired by other companies within your niche, to find new ways to serve your clients and find what works and find what doesn't work even. And I know that that might sound a little bit like opportunistic. I don't really see it as that. I think I see it as more of like learning from others' mistakes, or, learning from what you don't want or what you what you do want. But I think it's great to like kind of utilize your industry as motivation and inspiration for your own originality. Even though that kind of sounds like like finding others' ideas you would think it wouldn't contribute to being original, but I think it does.
I agree with you. And I think, I haven't had that experience with other people, again, because we were probably like one of the first to do this since we've been doing it since 2016, at least in the bookkeepers.com environment. But I've seen a lot of people use us for that, like, especially, on Facebook and even at BKX and things like that. Like, especially I absolutely love when people have no idea who I am, by the way, just as an FYI. It is so funny, especially men at BKX, because they will like literally talk down to me. Like one guy was like, "Oh yeah, maybe you'll have a business of this size one day," and I was like, "Yeah, one could hope." And then I got up on stage. I was like, "Oh yeah, maybe one day I'll have a business like yours." Anyway, so that happens to me all the time. But I love that because I will tell people like experience of what we've done in the business, and they don't know the success of my business, and they'll just totally shut me down and be like, "Oh, I would never do that. I would do this instead." And I'm like, I love that for you. And there's so many things where like, yeah, if I had somebody that had done it, that I had, messed enough stuff up, if I got to see somebody else do it, yeah, I probably would have done something else different too. But I didn't have that when I was starting. So I've made a lot of mistakes. So that's why I like to be as transparent as possible so that people can see what I did. Maybe they copy it. Maybe they don't. Maybe it gives them inspiration to do something else. But I think that the only way that we can do that, even in whether we're competition or we're a collaboration, sharing ideas, I think is a really great way to bounce off of each other. Which is what I do internally with my team, is just bounce all the ideas off of, each other and come up with that great master plan. I think in the community as a whole, doing that is really helpful. And I'm fine to be, the one that messed up enough times so that you guys can not do what I did. I'm fine with that.
Yeah. Well, and I think part of what's seeking out your originality is learning how to sell it. An idea is just an idea. If you can't sell it, then you need to find the way to bridge the gap from A to B to here's my idea. Okay. How do I market this? And I think that's kind of one of the things that you have to, I think that can be kind of a pain point when you have this idea and you want to get from A to B to actually implementing it. And you kind of have to find original ways to market it as well. And so there's so many different approaches to being original and being creative within your niche. And I think the answer to that, I think one of the points to kind of bridge that gap is you really have to put in the extra work to figure out your audience, where they are, how to serve them, and really get in front of what they need and what they want. And I think you have to be patient. Even the best of ideas, it can take a while to catch on.
Today's show is brought to you by Keeper, the one app to run your bookkeeping business. Keeper helps you get faster client responses with your own custom branded QuickBooks integrated client portal. Finally, you can say goodbye to those pesky spreadsheets full of uncategorized transactions. Keeper also helps you catch those embarrassing coding errors before your clients do. And with Keeper, you can generate beautiful custom reports that your clients will absolutely love to read. To find out more, go to keeper.app. That's keeper.app. Mention I Love Bookkeeping to get 20% off your first 3 months. Again, go to keeper.app to find out more. Thank you for listening.
Ooh, Hannah, you're just touching on all the things, like all my triggers right now, but the good triggers, because I'm also talking about this at BKX, but consistency. Yes. Consistency and patience, like being patient with yourself, with your niche, with your employees, with everybody in general. But when it comes to building a business, it's consistency and being patient when you know you have a good idea, when you know you have a good system. Yes, if something's not working, you do need to maybe pivot and change things. But if something's working, but it's not working fast, that doesn't mean it's the wrong thing. Not everything is supposed to be fast. And a lot of things need to build up momentum over time. And maybe it's always going to be slow, and that's okay. If it's slow, progress is still progress, and being patient, that is so important. I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah. Well, and it can be a struggle, especially if you're starting off your business and you're feeling lost and you think, okay, I'm starting this business. I've never been a business owner, or maybe you have, and you just haven't been a bookkeeping business owner. And there can be a lot of what if and what do I do? And it's kind of overwhelming when you have so many choices and you can't figure out which choice to make or which one works. My advice is just to make one. You're going to find out if it works or not. It's like you're saying of throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. You kind of have to make a choice based on your brand and your values and what, let your personality shine in your business, and don't really, I would say, be authentic to the best of your ability in your business, because you're going to enjoy it so much more. But you're going to have to, I think a lot of people get caught up in how overwhelming it is, that there's so many choices to make, and they kind of back off of making a decision until they feel totally solidified in it. And that's not to get too far off on a tangent, but that's kind of, you lose originality in that because you're not trusting yourself.
Yes. And you're never going to make the right decision 100% of the time. So you might as well just make a decision, right? And if it's the wrong decision, you'll find out, and then pivot. And then if it's the right decision, awesome. And you did it and you got it done. But you got to keep moving forward. And you can't have that analysis paralysis where you're going back and forth and you're not sure if it's the right one or this or that, the other. You can always keep going. You can always change your mind. I always like to say you can always rebrand, right? Like, I'm rebranding right now, for my other business. I wanted to get going. I got it going. I threw something together and it's working. And I figured that once it started working, then I could put the time into rebranding, but it wasn't my priority at the beginning. Same with the bookkeeping business. We did not have a professional website for years. Like, we legit threw this website together for the first 3 or 4 years. I hit $1 million in annual recurring revenue before I put money into building a website, guys. It wasn't a priority. And I always knew that it was something that we could always change. You just got to put one foot in front of the other and just keep going.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's such a great point, because I think when you have an original thought or an original idea or something that you want to implement, and you're overwhelmed with all the other different ideas out there, that's what's scary. That's what can trip you up. And I know that me personally, I'm not a business owner, but I'm one of those people that I really had to learn how to trust myself and trust my own idea, and either have confidence that it's going to catch on or have confidence that I'm going to find something better. And I think that's something that you really have to tell yourself, especially in the beginning when you're overwhelmed of, okay, well, I have this idea, but this person has this idea and it works for them. So maybe my idea is wrong. Not necessarily. Like, it takes consistency. I think it takes patience, and you never know when things are going to catch on, or when things are going to be, you're going to be catering all this value to people, but you're never going to know if you don't try it. And so I think one of the biggest keys of maintaining your originality is to trust your own ideas and be consistent and be patient.
So true. And I always remind myself that there could be multiple routes to get to the same destination, right? And so their idea could be great, and my idea could also be great. But also, the grass isn't always greener on the other side either. And so their idea might look great, but that might be because they're putting lipstick on a pig, right? So you really never know what other people are doing. You don't know the background. It's that whole Instagram isn't real thing. There's always filters. Everybody always has filters. And so when you see other people, always assume that is the best version of themselves, and they are probably a shit show on the back end. And that is always what I tell people. When I'm interviewing new people that are coming from the bookkeepers.com community, again, it'll be people that have no idea who I am. Maybe they know, but they don't really care. They haven't really followed us, but there'll be some people, they'll be like, oh my God, I followed you from the beginning. And I always get super like embarrassed. And I'm like, well, you're going to learn that like I'm a shit show. Like if you come to work with us, like you're going to see how the hot dogs are made, and you're probably going to have a lesser idea of what we do here. Like that is just the way life is, right? And so I always try to remember, like, you know, they could be right. I could be right. They could be wrong and I could be wrong. There's so many different versions. But again, you just have to have confidence in what you're doing and keep going with it. And something will work out. And if it doesn't, then you just keep going anyway. Right? That's the thing, is like every business owner, like every successful business owner I've ever talked to always has a story of like how they almost destroyed their own company and like grew from it and like came out on the other side better than ever. Like there's a reason for that, because the people that are still in business have to rise from those challenges and get through those times to get to the other side. So you can't give up. First of all, you can't give up when times get tough, but you also can't give up before you even have the chance.
Yeah. Well, and I, you know, as the community manager here, I see that struggle so many times among new students, is kind of the overwhelming feeling of throwing in the towel before they even start, because they're just so overwhelmed with being comparing themselves.
Yeah, they can't pick a logo.
You know, like I can't pick a logo, so I can't do this.
Yeah.
Or like I don't know what I'm not good at networking, so I can't do this.
Yeah. Like I failed this first exam. I had to take it a second time. Does that mean that I'm not going to be good? No, that means you have perseverance, because we didn't all pass the exam the first time. You might need to take the exam 2 or 3 times, but every time you're going to learn, right? Like how many times have you guys taken some kind of like quiz and you got it wrong? And then you never forget that right answer after that, right? Like you're going to get it wrong and you're going to be like, crap, I got it wrong, but you're going to remember it next time. So just because you fail once or fail twice doesn't mean that you can't be successful, but you have to pick yourself back up and keep going.
Yeah. Well, and I think you lose so much originality when you find yourself comparing to others.
1,000. For the longest time.
In all aspects of life.
Yes. And so for so long, like, especially, you know, it took me so many years for even me to do this. And I had imposter syndrome even when we talked about doing the podcast. I was like, why would anyone want to listen to me? I got a lot to say, but why would anyone want to listen to it? And I had not been as involved in the community as I had always wanted to, but that's because every focus of mine was on building bookkeeping for painters. And so I really never paid attention to what other people were doing. And I think that helped me, because I do get insecure. And so even now, you know, I found myself over the last couple of months starting to compare us to other people. And I've been having to refocus myself and say, look, like what we've been doing has been successful. We need to keep doing the things that have been successful. And what other people are doing, that's great. We'll see if it lasts. And then if that lasts, then, you know, we'll jump in and be like, hey, you know, tell me more about this idea. But I can't get into fads. I can't get into, you know, new things or popular things, or, you know, it took me forever to jump on the Keeper train. Like I think Keeper was out for like over a year. Everybody was just singing Keeper's praises. Guys, if you have not been on Keeper, this might be, I don't know. I don't think this episode is sponsored by Keeper. It could be, because they're fantastic. If you do not use them, look into them. But I refuse to jump on new things, 1,000%. Again, it's being consistent and knowing what you're doing. But, you know, once I see something proven, yeah, I'm gonna go in, and that the example I can come up with is Keeper. It was one of the best decisions we've made for our company, to take their product and use that for our quality control. It's been fantastic.
That's amazing. I love hearing stuff like that. I mean, and I love hearing about how you stay on brand and how you stay original, because I feel like you've tried so many things, and even though you say you have social anxiety, you do such a great job of like trying new ideas and being out there and kind of being a pioneer, I feel like, in the bookkeeping for painters industry.
Oh, thank you.
Oh,
it means a lot to hear that from people. I like getting I don't get a lot of validation. I think that we, you know, it's kind of known that entrepreneurship can be lonely. Because especially if you're, you know, the CEO or the owner of the company, there's certain things you don't want to share with your team, right? You want to protect them from the hard stuff. That's not what they signed up for, right? And that's the beauty of, you know, I know a lot of, you know, BBLers decided that business ownership wasn't for them, and they decided to work for another BBLer. And I think almost everybody that works for me fits in that, you know, in that bucket. But I really love this community because it is a really great place for camaraderie and getting that validation from like-minded people, because it's hard. It's a hard thing to do. And I don't want to say that if you can't be original, you can't do this, or if you're struggling with this, you can't do this. Like, everything is going to be a struggle. Again, I don't want to, you know, be a dead horse. I can't remember. PETA just came up with like new phrases that are like less damaging to animals, and I can't remember that one. I'll have to look it up and use it next time, guys. But apologies to horse lovers everywhere. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but being consistent. Again, be patient with yourself and be consistent, and I promise you, it will pay off in the end.
If you guys have stories about how you like to stay original, or questions, comments, concerns, tips, please shoot us an email at success@ilovebookkeeping.com. Again, that's success@ilovebookkeeping.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss an episode, out every Tuesday and Thursday. My name is Hannah Robinson.
And I'm Melissa Honan.
And thank you for listening to the I Love Bookkeeping podcast.
I love bookkeeping.